Welcome to Breaking Financial Chains, where we combine practical money guidance with emotional healing to help you break free from financial limitations. I'm Tanya Riverson, your financial wingwoman.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Breaking Financial Chains. I am so happy that you're here. Today's episode, we are going to talk about burnout spending. So when your card becomes your coping strategy, this might be something that you can relate to. This might be something that you hear and just think that's the most ridiculous thing in the world. Obviously, everybody's habits, coping strategies, behaviours, patterns are very, very different. This is certainly something I can relate to. I could relate to very hard in years gone by, but I still do it now. This is something that we're going to explore in this episode. So let me know if this sounds like a little bit of you. So the theme for today is self-care, fulfillment and emotional spending awareness. This is not an opportunity to beat yourself over the head with a metaphorical stick. This is about understanding your habits and then making a decision if it's something you want to do differently going forward. Complete personal choice and totally up to you. So I suppose the starting point is it's the pattern, the quiet pattern that no one talks about, right? Have you ever bought anything and immediately thought, why did I just do that? What on earth was I thinking? I don't need another one of these. Once upon a time for me, this was eyeliner pencils. I once counted 21 brown eyeliner pencils in a makeup bag. Why? Just why? I didn't need 21. I didn't need 5, never mind 21, but there we go. Not because you needed it, not even because you really wanted it, but because you were tired, overwhelmed, or emotionally just done. So the concept that we're going to talk about is burnout spending. A lot more common than you think. Let's dive in. So what actually is burnout spending? It's when money becomes a pressure valve, such as online shopping late at night after a stressful day, such as ordering takeaways repeatedly because you've got no energy to cook, you've got no energy to plan ahead, to meal prep, any of those things. It's quite a long, drawn out process. There's thought that needs to go into it. You've got to get to the supermarket, or you've got to order stuff online, and then you've got to put the damn things away. You've got to remember where you've put them. You've got to remember what you've got and where. So it's not necessarily a quick job. It might look like treating yourself because the week has been absolutely relentless and do you know what? We deserve it, right? It might look like small purchases that stack up as a reward for simply surviving. I once wrote a social media post which was along the lines of what does it take to waste £10,000 a year? And I'll tell you exactly what that looks like. It's about £27.30 a day of spending that can be takeaways, that can be stocking up on something that you didn't know you needed and actually you don't need, like eyeliner pencils as an example. All of those things that we don't realise add up to £10,000 over the year, but because we're doing them in isolation, because we're doing them without a bigger plan, because we're doing them in response to something emotional that's affecting us, we just don't realise what the longer term impact is going to be of that overall spending. So this isn't about irresponsibility at all. This is not about blame. This is not about pointing fingers. This is about coping mechanisms. What the reality is of what we use them for, and then whether we want to do anything about it. So burnout and spending are linked because when you're burnt out, your brain wants fast relief. Maybe it's a dopamine hit. Maybe it's a sense of control. Maybe it's I can because I can and I will, therefore here we go, next day delivery on Amazon or whatever your poison of choice might be. It could be a quick emotional shift that you're seeking in the moment, but the problem with it is that it is just a temporary relief. It's not a resolution, and depending upon your financial circumstances it can become a real problem. not dependent on your financial circumstances, that money could be better used for future you, to build financial reserves and buffers, and escape funds in some instances. So what actually happens is this pattern, the aftermath, often brings guilt, financial anxiety and shame, which actually deepens the burnout cycle. It makes it a lot harder for us to claw our way out of that scenario. And high functioning, high earning women are especially vulnerable in these scenarios because high earners very often carry the emotional load. You're carrying a huge amount of corporate or business responsibility in terms of maintaining what you've achieved, and then the pressure potentially to take it that step further, or to grow or to scale, or whatever your mentor is telling you should be doing, or what society tells you should be doing, or your lifestyle dictates that you have to maintain a certain level of earnings in order to keep up the circumstances that you're in. We carry the financial load, we carry the family load quite often as well. And when you're constantly responsible, spending can then become, I just want something to feel good. A facial, a face mask, a night out drinking cocktails with your friends, a new handbag, a new pair of shoes, a new pair of trainers, because of all of that spare time that you haven't got. I am going to get out for some more walks because my mental health really needs it. And this is especially the case when you rarely prioritise yourself, when you're running on empty, and when your nervous system never gets a break. The nervous system is the key to all of these things, because when we're constantly taking and withdrawing from those reserves, eventually that bank will become empty. And this is where we are in burnout. So how do we know if that's something that's going on for you? So some of the signs that burnout spending might be happening. And as with so many things, awareness is key. Awareness is not something that you can use as a punishment. Awareness is data. And when we have data, we can choose differently if we want to. So the common clues for burnout spending are when spending mostly happens when you're tired or stressed. And that's going to be for you to be able to pinpoint when that is. It's when purchases feel urgent in the moment because you're going to instantly forget, or because it's been left till the last minute to make that purchasing decision, and therefore it needs to be the thing that can be delivered the fastest, or the thing that provides that instant solution. It could be you can identify if you're hiding spending or avoiding looking at spending afterwards. So that new handbag, and your other half, husband, friend, oh wow, love the new bag. When did you get that? Oh, this old thing. I've had this for years. I still do that sometimes. I don't know, it's kind of like a running joke with my husband. A really key one, which requires you to be honest with yourself, is when the purchases don't actually feel fulfilling. It's the purchasing itself, it's the searching, it's the clicking buy now button that gives you that rush, or that gives you the hit that you're looking for. When the thing arrives the next day, it's just becomes something you've got to put away, or why did I do that becomes the question. If you find yourself saying I deserve it as your way of justifying, and yet on the inside, again requiring honesty, you still feel uneasy, then the key question that we need to be asking ourselves, or journaling around, or meditating with, is, am I buying this because I want it, or because I need relief? It's about really noticing what is going on when that purchase happens. What triggers you to pick up your phone or your tablet, or to sit down at your laptop to then start browsing purchasing sites? What is going on for you at that time? And it does require honesty, right? And it requires a real desire and a need to want to change. This can't be dictated to you. This can't be because someone tells you what you should and shouldn't be doing. This needs to be, and often is, something that the creeping awareness is there, but we're busy, right? We're overloaded. We're carrying a lot. When I get some time off, then I will look at something like that. Or it is something you make a note of that you want to do and you never quite get to that on the to-do list because everything else is just shouting louder. But with that honesty comes the ability to choose the next steps. Because the real solution to burnout spending is not restriction. It isn't, I'm going to hide my credit card so that I can't do any spending, or I'm going to take that credit card off my Apple Wallet so that it can't be a spontaneous thing. The solution is actually recovery, because this is a nervous system, a capacity problem that you're carrying. Very often alone, very often in silence, and you don't feel that you've got anybody that you can talk to about it. So budgets alone are not going to solve burnout spending, because the issue isn't the money, it's the capacity. So instead, we want to be looking in a different direction. We want to focus on rest, true rest, not when you sit down or collapse horizontally onto the sofa at the end of the day, or for the 10 minutes before you build up the energy to walk up the stairs to get into bed. This is proper rest, this is proper switch off, this is time where you turn your phone off or you take yourself for a walk without your phone. This is time just for you, and that needs to be obviously at a time that works for you. That might be late at night, that might be early in the morning, whatever that looks like. It looks like focusing on boundaries. Super hard, especially if you're a people pleaser. Super hard for people that carry all of the responsibilities, because the whole point is that you achieve, that you tick things off the list, that you get people off your back, that you are able to say, yes, I've done that. So it becomes really, really tricky. But having those boundaries in place and attempting to move yourself, a little bit higher up the to-do list than where you might traditionally have stood, i.e. at the bottom, or the last thing that gets looked at or looked after. Nervous system regulation, a really key, massively overlooked way in which this could help solve this problem. Part of understanding where burnout spending comes in is one element of dealing with it, but actually understanding where we get to that point, where we get to the precipice of, I'm going online now, Astrid and Mia, Amazon, John Lewis, wherever that might be for you. That's when we need to understand what happens just before that. And the way in which you regulate your nervous system, it's about finding what works for you, whether that's breath work, whether that's exercise, whether that's meditation, whether that's building in enforced time off. So it overlaps with boundaries, it overlaps with rest, because these are all forms of the same thing. It might also mean looking at having those possibly difficult, possibly challenging, but very honest conversations about workload. That might be workload in your business. What can you delegate? That might be workload in your employment. What can you delegate? Who can you turn to or report up to let people know what you're carrying? That might be workload in the home, your significant other, husband, wife, partner. Who carries the load? This isn't about pink jobs and blue jobs in the house. This is who is doing what and who is carrying the most. This is roping in your kids to take part of some of this responsibility as well. If we're contributing to the mess, to eating the food, to using all of the stuff up that's in the house, then they need to be contributed to helping solve it. This isn't about dumping on them. This is about raising competent, raising capable children who can then go on to look after themselves and aren't reliant on you all of the time, because that is who they're then going to turn to when they're 18, 21, 25, whenever they can't deal with something because they've never learned how to do it. So I guess the underlying core message around the solution being recovery is that financial well-being requires emotional well-being. all of these well-being terms may be very woke, they may be talked about a lot, but understanding what they mean for you is absolutely key for then making those next decisions. Awareness comes first, because then when we know, we can make decisions. When we know, we can look at our options and we can make choices. We can determine the path we want to go down rather than just be swept along in the rapids of your life where you might feel that you are right now. Not doing something about this, if you identify this as a problem for yourself, is making a choice. You're still making a choice. You're just choosing the easy option, in inverted commas. It's not easy for you. It's not easy for your nervous system, for the mental load, but you deem it to be easier than the alternative, which is facing these things head on, which is making change, which is having those conversations. And that takes a little bit of practice. That takes a bit of flexing our muscles. So we need to build up to that if that's something that you're not used to doing, and there's no shame in not being used to doing this. But that doesn't mean you have to always do what you've always done. So a simple pause practice that I would recommend you give a go. See if this works. It might not work at all. And again, it's going to depend on the situation. It's going to depend on the circumstances. It's going to require your absolute honesty. What do you want out of making these changes? So before spending, ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? What do I actually need? Will this purchase solve that need? So pause and asking those 3 questions. Now, sometimes the answer is going to be yes to any one or all 3 of those questions, and that's completely okay. Sometimes we just need to get shit done, and that's just the way it is. Completely fine. But the important part of this simple pause practice is the awareness of breaking the automatic pattern. What we find is that often we undertake certain behaviours because that's what we do in that situation. And that is the emotional part of our brain, the amygdala, that's just running the show. There's no logical thought. The prefrontal cortex has got no involvement in that decision at all. You're running on autopilot, and you get to choose differently if you so desire. But it starts with that pattern breaker, that circuit breaker that's going to allow you to maybe go down the route that you were going to do anyway, but it might also change the landscape for you a little bit and allow you to maybe take a bit of a pause. Maybe, well, do you know what, if that's still valid in 24 hours, then I will purchase the thing, rather than just automatically going ahead and clicking buy now. Another part of the self-care side of things is the language that you're using when it comes to these sort of burnout spending habits, particularly around reframing treats and self-care. When we're overloaded, it might well be that the thing you need is to book that massage, book that facial, to buy those products, to plan that night out with some friends. But real self-care asks, what would genuinely restore me? What is it that you actually need right now that's going to then potentially avoid that regret, shame, guilt, financial anxiety afterwards, when actually what might help you more, what might help regulate your nervous system, is sometimes taking a nap, going to bed early. It might be going for a walk instead, getting out in the fresh air with your hands in your pockets and just being and noticing your surroundings. What can you hear? What can you see? What can you smell? Getting out of that emotional brain and giving yourself some space. It might be asking for help. It might be reaching out to a friend or a family member or your other half, or just anybody. A financial wing woman might be a good example of where I can't do this. I'm making these decisions and I don't know why. but I need some help because I'm just completely overwhelmed. Can you help me? It might be saying no. So if you find yourself in the pattern of jumping onto Amazon to solve a need because we're panicked and we're running out of time, it might be that in the short term we have to say no in order to change that becoming the fallback behaviour of other people if you're looking to solve problems. It might be, and here's a radical thought, it might be creating financial space instead of spending it. I'm going to say that again because I absolutely love it. One of the ways in which you genuinely restore yourself might be creating financial space instead of spending it. What would that look like? Instead of those frivolous purchases, having a financial buffer to fall back on. If the problem is you can't get everything done at home, well, I'm going to build a financial buffer and I'm going to hire a cleaner. I'm going to hire a housekeeper. I'm going to hire someone to take the laundry off me. I'm going to hire someone to come in and meal prep for me for the week and stock the fridge and the freezer up so I don't have to give that some thought. A financial buffer, financial resources, gives you that choice. It might be that it affords you the possibility to resign from a job quicker than if you had to find yourself another one because you've got financial reserves in the bank. It might be hiring someone in your business to take a load off. That's the difference when we create financial space. Your card shouldn't be your only coping strategy. And as I said right at the beginning, this is not about shame or blame. This is about options and showing you that you can choose differently. So I suppose the overall closing message to this episode is that you're not bad with money. You are likely overloaded, and there is a massive difference. Some people deal with that by spending money. Some people deal with that by over-exercising. Some people deal with that by drinking wine or gin or whatever your libation of choice. There are different ways to deal with things, but understanding what's happening in the background is the key. It's not about restricting the spending or, well, I'm going to ban all drinking or I'm going to really scale back on the exercising, because that's not fixing the problem. It's not finding a real long-term solution. And once you start addressing the exhaustion, let's be honest, because that's what it is, underneath the spending, your money decisions will start to change naturally, whether you're consciously doing that or not. They will start to change. And that's not about discipline. That's not because you're necessarily just thinking differently. Those changes will happen because you are giving yourself the gift of capacity, the ability to see the bigger picture. And future you, I promise you, will thank you for it. Thank you so much for listening. I would love to hear any of your takeaways from this episode, but I will see you again on the next episode.
Thank you for joining me today on Breaking Financial Chains. Remember, you have the power to transform your relationship with money one step at a time. If this episode helped you, please subscribe and leave a review to help others find their path to financial freedom. I'm Tanya, your financial wing woman, and I'll see you next week.